Hello, welcome back, gamers. If there's one thing we could say about 2023, you might have some preferences and things you like and dislike, but boy, oh boy, there have been a heck of a lot of solid games this year, and it looks like this month of September is going to be no different. Let's take a look at the best looking upcoming new games. Kicking things off this month is the latest game from the developers of a little known title known as Skyrim, and maybe you've heard of the Fallout series. Starfield, their first new universe in 25 years, is promised to be everything people love and or hate about Bethesda games, depending on where you fall, but this time out set in space. The exploration, the discovery, the loot, hidden secrets, lots of books to read, funny physics moments, bugs, NPC relationships, warring factions, crafting, the whole thing, the kit and caboodle, all of it, love it or hate it. There will of course be a major through-line story in the main story quest, with us playing as the latest member of Constellation, a group of space explorers trying to discover some of the mysteries of what's going on out there. In addition to that, plenty of side activities with us solving mysteries, taking out bad guys, being the bad guys, and helping locals of the various planets that we come across who might have some troubles, or maybe making things worse for them, depending. Combat in Starfield, they're gonna have a lot of melee and ranged options with tons of customization for ranged weapons. You got like barrels, triggers, mods, different ammo types. This is gonna have more weapons and mods than any other of their prior games. Also, gravity is gonna affect combat. We're out in space here. There's a variety of gravity. Every different planet is going to have its own different gravity setting. In 0G, firing things like ballistic weapons will even push you backwards, while energy weapons won't, so there's a balance there to your weapon carrying decision. The game's got a skill system where you pick from a variety of perks and even some that unlock brand new mechanics for you to play with further tiers of those abilities unlocking via challenges you have to complete, and they have teased that the game is going to include some form of space magic. We saw this in one of the trailers with some like anti-gravity thing taking place. Speaking of space, there's a lot of it, over 1,000 planets, somewhere around 1,000 planets in the game, with a mix of procedural and handcrafted locations on those. There's a few major cities that basically act as central hubs for quest and discovering NPCs and selling and trading and all that. Space combat isn't just about hitting the triggers to fire weapons at enemy ships. It's a bit more complex than that, as you balance out your different skills, allocating systems like boosting power to the engine, which makes the ship go faster, or boosting the grav drive, which will shorten the time to jump. Again, it's more than just point and shoot. There's a bit of finagling here, a bit of fine tuning. Ships, you can buy ships in the game, customize and upgrade them, hire crew to keep them running. All of this is done at spaceports located in different cities. There are different types of ships, like speedy fighters that can do bounty hunting, or freighters that are great for cargo runs and smuggling. There's tons of customization. Every single module can be customized by all the different components of a ship, basically. In one example, they showed us a ship that just looked like Optimus Prime, kind of crazy stuff. Companions will of course make a return. Each companion has their own skills like piloting, rifle certification, payloads, geology. Some even have their very own quest lines you can go on, and some romance options if you're looking for. It's the season of romance here between this and Baldur's Gate 3. You can assign crew to your ship or to outposts, and this is going to affect how they run depending on their traits, and most companions can even help you out in the field. There's also an outpost system where you're basically building bases out on any planet, anywhere you want, different habitats for you, put different stuff here, have storage and crafting stations, and the game's got a pretty detailed character creator, with them having scanned tons of different faces from a variety of age groups, ethnicities, and compiled all that data for some high customization, lots of options here. Also during character creation, this is where you basically pick your baseline character, choosing from skills and traits. Looks great, and it is, can't quite say yet because the embargo doesn't lift for a couple of days. I will say this though, over the past like week and a half, I've been going online, seeing all the critique and complaints and people really unhappy about the game, or raising concerns about some of the leaks that have come out. And every time I like read through this stuff, I'm like, damn, that's crazy. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to playing Starfield now. So make of that what you will. Is it because I'm enjoying it? Is it because I'm doing it for a review and it's my job? You will find out in just a couple of days. Starfield officially launches on September 6th, although they are selling early access to the game, so you can play prior to that on the 1st, and the reviews will be going up the day before on the 31st. I think technically it unlocks like late on the 31st, something like that. All right, before we get into the next game, let's get a word from today's sponsor, Ridge Wallet. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you certainly know about them. It's a product I'm happy to recommend, as it is something that I use daily. I first swapped over from the more traditional leather or fabric wallets that I used to have to exclusive exclusively using a Ridge about 2 years ago. Couldn't be happier, no desire to go back. It simply boils down to the smaller profile, making it less cumbersome and easier to carry stuff around. I always used to stuff my previous wallets with whatever I could jam in there, 99% of which I never really used. Swapping to Ridge made me think, what do I actually need? And the truth was, only a few things. But if you do have a few extra things you want to carry, Ridge has got you covered, with room for up to 14 cards, a cash strap on the back. They've even got a change holder add-on and an AirTag attachment if you tend to lose your stuff. There's lots of colors and styles, a lifetime warranty, and a 99-day risk-free trial. Now, currently, Ridge is holding the Hennessy sweepstakes from now until September 30th. Without spending $1, you can enter on their website for a chance to win a new upgraded Hennessy Ford Bronco or $75,000 in cash. Register with the link below. We'll get you one bonus entry for every $1 you do spend, and custom Hennessy products come with up to 1,000 entries, making now as good a time as ever to check out Ridge. And if you use my link, ridge.com/force, and code FORCE at checkout, you'll get a 10% discount and 10 bonus entries. Now let's jump back to the games. On September 19th, we have got Lies of P. This is a Souls-like action RPG developed and published by NeoWiz. You play as a puppet created by Geppetto who's caught in a web of lies with unimaginable monsters and untrustworthy figures. This is not an open world game, as some were led to believe early on. The devs have clarified Lies of P will not feature the seamless open world similar to Elden Ring, but is much more linear and similar to the traditional Soulsborne games that the original Dark Souls and Bloodborne, for example. But they have included features that will make it feel more open and seamless, like the game's weather system. The weather will change as you progress through the game, making the world feel more dynamic. If you move to the later part of Lies of P, you can go back to earlier stages you encountered, and you'll notice that there'll be differences from when you were originally there. In an interview the developer did with Gaming Bolt, they revealed that their ultimate goal is to capture a world that feels as densely populated as possible, really living and breathing and dynamic. Combat in Lies of P is very action RPG, Souls-like, Soulsborne-ish. You've got a variety of basic attacks, charge attacks, combo attacks. You can lock onto targets. There's blocking and perfect time deflecting, dodges and rolls, consumables. They've even got a stagger system like Elden Ring. When enemies' health goes white, you follow up with a heavy attack to stagger them. They've got this thing called the Legion arm, your customizable left arm that has a ton of different modifications like a gun arm, grapple hooks, or electrical charges. Lots of different variety of choices in terms of how you approach the game. There's 3 combat styles to choose from: balance, dexterity, and strength, and a stat system that lets you choose upgrades for your vitality, vigor, or technique. In terms of weapons, it runs the expected gambit. You can choose from lightweight weapons like sabers to heavy weapons like the hammer. Each weapon has 2 parts, the handle and the blade, and these can be mixed and matched, so lots of customization there. Over 30 weapon types and 100 different potential combinations. The game seems pretty difficult from what we've seen. They've got the range of basic enemies that might be easy to stagger and dodge, but larger bosses that will require a perfect guard to survive incoming attacks because the dodging gives a limited iframe. So it's the expected difficulty challenge, or at least that's what they are attempting to deliver. And there will be a little bit of light exploration, even though it's not open world, as said earlier, with some side quests that have you track down areas of the map which you wouldn't maybe otherwise go and that aren't part of the main story quest. And the beta for this game was fairly well received. They even have a demo available on Steam right now if you want to try it before it comes out, which again, Lies of P will be launching on September 19th. Also on September 19th, we've got Mortal Kombat. It's getting a reboot this month, with NetherRealm bringing us the new and improved version of the original game that comes with a new fighting system, game modes, and fatalities. For the fighting system, the game will introduce a feature called Cameo Fighters, which will provide assistance to the fighter during fights. These characters will be separate from the main roster and have to be chosen before each fight. Additionally, the air combat combo system, which was featured in both Mortal Kombat Armageddon and the action spin-off Shaolin Monks, is making a return and has been a bit more refined. For game modes, they got the story campaign as you fight through a brand new story featuring your favorite Mortal Kombat characters. Beyond the campaign, there's online multiplayer with rollback netcode, nice to have in fighting games, as well as some offline gameplay. The Mortal Kombat reboot will feature 21 main fighters with 14 cameo fighters, lots of fan favorites making a return here, and a bunch of new ones as well, and a whole host of new fatalities on top of that. Mortal Kombat 1 launches on September 19th. On September 20th, we've got Witchfire. This I've been eagerly anticipating for a very long time. This is a game that I've thought looks really, really cool. I'm so happy it's finally coming out. Witchfire is a first-person shooter being developed by the Astronauts, a studio with creative leads who made games such as Painkiller, Bulletstorm, and Vanishing of Ethan Carter. They say that Witchfire is a roguelite first-person shooter for people who hate roguelites. The game offers a challenging but satisfying gameplay experience with multiple roads to victory. Now, originally, this game was supposed to be released about a year ago, but it was delayed made because, to quote the developer, "We have redesigned the core experience of the game. Well, not all of it, but a certain crucial element nonetheless. To be clear, Witchfire is still a roguelite dark fantasy first-person shooter. That did not and will not change, but the way the player experiences the world has changed significantly. And how is that? Well, originally, Witchfire's structure was similar to, say, Hades or other roguelites that have barriers that would keep players from leaving an area until they completed everything within it, at which point they would disappear. However, they realized, or at least they felt, that those barriers were too old school, and they elected to shift it to a more open world design. With the new structure, players can now leave areas if things get too hectic, letting them go out and further explore the world, recoup themselves before heading back to take on the challenge. They say, "The way the player experiences the world has changed significantly. We've upgraded combat and exploration from arena style to semi-open world style, and that took some time." Bunch of different really interesting mechanics, from how the guns work to how they do the magic system. There's just a lot of really cool, not only visually do I think this game looks phenomenal, I have from the jump, but even like the weapon system and the way they're talking about how spells works and the different like combinations of things and how weapons get improved over time and can be upgraded, not just like +5 damage, but just really, really interesting stuff here. This looks really cool. I'm super excited for Witchfire, coming on September 20th. On September 21st, we've got Payday 3, the latest installment in the action co-op multiplayer FPS heist series. The general gameplay and combat elements will be similar to its predecessor. You will plan heists and attempt to execute them in perfect execution, either single player or with 4-player co-op. You are given the freedom to basically determine how you approach these heists. You can choose to be stealthy or choose to go in guns blazing, release the hostages or keep them as pawns, tackle the mission alone or with a company of friends. Just a lot of variety of choices here. The developers have confirmed the return of the original cast along with 2 additional heisters, but they have kept us in the dark as to who those will be. They made a ton of different improvements to various gameplay aspects. For stealth, there's new ways of tracking down guardsmen who are moving around. Mini cameras can be placed on the back of guardsmen or other places. There's also things like jammers. In terms of assault, weapons got improved with all sorts of different usage and unlock options. They've even offered new preset weapons with different mods, letting you upgrade the base weapon. The skill tree has an improvement as well, with new added ways and play styles, the goal of which is to give players more options and varieties for solving the heist. And then the usual expected variety of enemies with common, uncommon, and special difficult enemies. And the game is going to feature cross progression and cross play, which is something you always love to see. Payday 3 will be launching on September 21st. So that is the list of main games, the games that I think are best coming out in September. Let's talk about some of my honorable mentions. First up on September 8th is Sept, a futuristic free-to-play cooperative shooter developed by Next Studios and published by Level Infinite. This is a mixture of PvE and PvP gameplay. It's a third-person shooter. Those elements alone have me interested in the game. I will say I played, I believe it was like an early beta or alpha test, and I had just kind of middling impressions. I didn't think it was phenomenal, but interesting enough that if there is time this month, I would like to give it another look. I want to see how the fully released launch version of the game ended up turning out. On September 14th, we have got the Crew Motorfest. I am not exactly into racing games, but I know people really like this stuff. This is Ubisoft's open Hawaii racer. You'll explore a vibrant Hawaiian open world, doing car stuff, racing around, completing objectives, leveling and upgrading, doing customization. Seems pretty neat. I just haven't been into racing games in quite some time, but I hear good things. On September 14th, we've got Pathfinder Gallowspire Survivors. This is going to be an early access release. It is a new roguelite survivor game in the world of Pathfinder. It's going to feature 3 hero classes, over 67 unlocks with different abilities and 36 talents, 4 unique bosses, and scripted challenging battles. Seems pretty cool. I've liked some Pathfinder video games in the past, although I should note the developers of this particular game aren't the same as the ones who made the Pathfinder CRPG, so just keep that in mind. It is the Pathfinder IP, but an entirely different studio. On September 20th is Men of War 2. This is a World War II RTS, a sequel to the acclaimed franchise with all new units, locations, campaigns, and game modes. Features classic real-time strategy gameplay with some new advanced AI. There's a cinematic single-player campaign, multiplayer PvP, and co-op. And the game is going to offer full mod support. As someone who grew up with RTS games, there's just always a special place in my heart for this genre of games, even if it has kind of fallen by the wayside in recent years. I would love to see it make a resurgence if that is is at all possible in today's gaming environment. And then finally in September, we're supposed to be getting that RoboCop game. It's the just first-person RoboCop shooter. Really just curious about this. And funny enough too, we're so close, but as of now, I couldn't see an actual release date. It just says September 2023, which is nutty given that like that's a couple of days away and they haven't nailed down an exact date, at least according to the Steam page from what I saw. The one like sticking point for me is the whole thing about RoboCop is he moves like 2 miles per hour. And like, so you're just like plodding through the environment. I don't know how that's gonna feel in a FPS, but we'll see how they do it. I'm intrigued, if nothing else, to see how a developer handles the fact that RoboCop barely moves. And then finally, 2 beta tests I want to tell you about. Hyenas from August 31st to September 11th. They're running a beta. This is a hero-based multiplayer extraction shooter. I know you all wanted more of those. This actually seems kind of cool, at least visually interesting enough. I don't know. And then the first Descendant. This was supposed to be happening this month. They delayed almost a full month. Now the beta will be taking place from the 19th to the 25th. We played it a while ago. I think it was last year, and I thought it seemed pretty cool. The boss fights in particular were really interesting. Also, I really love the class design. They have this class where basically every few meters that you move, it pulses out AoE damage, and the whole class design is about moving at maximum speed, building up your momentum, and then like bunny hopping. I actually think the character's name was Bunny. There was just some for a third-person shooter with like magic and abilities, I thought there were some really cool and interesting class designs that they had with this game. For that reason alone, plus the interesting boss fights and like the semi-open kind of shared Destiny style world, I'm interested in jumping back in and checking this out. But hey, as I said at the top, there's a lot going on in gaming. We are inundated with games, and this month in particular, there is one game that I know I will be spending almost all of my time with, but we have to save that for a future date, sometime maybe very soon. I'll be talking about it. But that is going to do it for me today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you as always, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.